Your Honor, the jury is in the presence of the court. Seated in jury.
Thank you. You may have a seat. You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ma'am, when we took our lunch break, we were talking about your daughter's graduation from college and that you had walked across the stage in her stead. Was that an event that was important to her, something that she would have wanted the family to be there for?
Yes.
Something she would have been proud of in her own life?
Yes.
Did your daughter have many friends?
Yes.
Okay. Who were some of her best friends?
Sabrina.
Sabrina Newell? Was that her best friend?
Yes. Besides going to school and studying, she used to belong to a club named Adventure at church, so she can participate with the kids.
And what did they do as a part of that club?
They go camping, they go hiking, they do different crafts. They talk about God.
There were regular events and activities within that group?
Yes.
Let me talk to you a moment about the children. You told us already that the children's father's name was Michael Otto.
Yes.
How active was he in their life?
He was there when it was time for him to pick him up. He was there every other week and picking up the children.
Okay. And so he had a relationship with his children.
Yes.
Did they feel loved when they were with him?
Yes.
Okay. Did they enjoy being with him?
Yes.
Okay. Was that a place that they knew that they could go for refuge or safety or love and support?
Yes.
How often did he see them? Was it every other week?
Try to, but not quite like every other week. I mean,
But Yessenia had the kids most of the time?
yes.
How did the kids spend their free time? I know that they were in school. Where did they go to school?
Bentley Elementary School,
And which county?
Seminole County.
What other activities did they have outside of school?
They used to go home with me when I used to pick them up from school. Sometimes we went bike riding. We draw, we color, we watch movies, we play around.
Did they play any sports? Were they part of any groups or organizations?
No, they belong to the Adventure at church. And at one point, Elijah did play baseball, but not at this time.
Okay. And did she ever cheerlead?
Talia was doing cheerleading, and she also played the clarinet at school.
Did they have friends?
Yes,
How many friends did they have?
a lot.
Just kids in their class or kids in the neighborhood or?
In their class, at church, in the neighborhood, even though Jesse didn't go outside that much.
Now, we talked a little bit this morning about Louis Toledo. When did he first come into their life?
4 years before the incident happened.
And do you see him here in this courtroom today?
Yes,
Did you tell us what he's wearing, please?
black suit and a white shirt and glasses.
Patterned tie?
Yes,
You told us earlier that you didn't particularly like him when he first came into the family.
no,
If you were to describe their relationship, would Rocky be a fair word?
yes, yes.
Even in the short time they've been together, did they have a lot of fights?
Jesse didn't want to tell me much about their fights. So as far as I know, I didn't know much about their fights.
Occasionally, when they would have arguments, did one or both of them come to you for support or advice?
Yes,
Was it primarily your daughter, or did Mr. Toledo come too?
more Jesse.
But he did come to you for advice or support sometimes?
Yes, he did.
If you look at their relationship in a span of time over the 4 years, was it in a period of decline towards the end?
Yes,
Did they have recurring fights over particular topics that you were aware of?
yes.
What were those topics?
Can I mention one in particular? A year after they got married, something happened between them, and I remember me being on a cruise, and when I got back, Jessie called me. I was doing the cruise the day I got there. She said, "Mommy, can you watch your kids for me?"
Abstain.
It's fine. When they would argue, did you sometimes watch the children?
Yes,
I know that the children were in your life, but did you watch them more during those periods?
yes.
As we approached October of 2013, how much were you watching the children?
A lot.
And during the time that she was out of town on the business trip, how much did you watch the children?
The whole time she was out.
During that period, did you have to go to their home for anything?
Yes,
Did you go there more than once?
twice.
What was your reason for going to the home?
The first time I went to get clothes, and the second time I didn't quite go inside, but I stayed on the outside to get medicine for Talia.
Did you know anything about the couple's finances?
Well, Jesse admitted to me like it was a little bit tight,
So you knew they were struggling financially.
a little bit, but she said it will get better over once she would have graduated.
More specifically, do you know where they did their banking?
Yes,
Where did they bank?
the credit union.
One moment, please. Whenever you hear the objection, stop. Overrule.
Ma'am, where did they do their banking?
The credit union, the teachers' credit union, I forgot the name of it now. CFE.
After your daughter's death, did you ultimately close that account?
Yes,
Was there money in the account at that time?
yes,
And did the balance remain the same from the time that she died until the time that you closed it?
I didn't have her checking, so I really didn't know whatever was there.
Okay.
John, any question?
Yes, sir. Okay, the last question will be stricken as well as the answer, okay? Ask the
Thank you.
question again.
I will. I'll ask it a different way. Ma'am, from the time of October 23rd, 2013, and did you close let me start again. Did you close your daughter's account at CFE Credit Union after October 23rd, 2013?
After, yes,
How far after that date did you close her account? Days, weeks, or months?
I don't remember exactly the time, but it was almost 2 years because I went to the bank and they said if I don't close it, they would have retained the money. So it was almost 2 years after.
Okay. But her account stayed open and there was money in the account for 2 years.
Yes,
Her black Honda Accord, did she buy that outright or was it financed?
it was financed.
And how about their home? Did they buy that outright or was that financed?
Finance.
After October 23rd, 2013, are you aware of any payments being made to either of those things, either the black Honda Accord or the home that they lived in?
As far as I know.
Around October 23rd of 2013, what was the defendant doing for work, if you know?
I really don't know.
Was he enrolled in any educational or academic institution?
That I know that he had enrolled in school. Jesse had told me he had enrolled to become a barber.
Over the years that you had known him, did he have a consistent job?
In the beginning, he did.
Was your daughter primarily responsible for earning the money in the home?
Yes.
Was the defendant primarily responsible for child care?
No.
Who was primarily responsible for child care?
Child care, him paying child care?
No, I'm sorry. Let me try again. Was the defendant primarily responsible for watching after Talia and Elijah while your daughter was either working or in school?
Yes.
Was your last contact with your daughter and grandchildren on October 22nd, 2013?
Yes.
I'd like to talk with you about kind of the time, the week maybe, leading up to that day. How much you had seen them, what their frame of mind was, their demeanor was, as things were progressing to October 22nd. How much had you seen them in the 10 days prior?
Every day.
And you told us while Yessenia was away on business that the kids were primarily with you. Did they spend the night with you?
Yes.
Did they come home to your house?
Yes.
Did you take them to school?
Yes.
Did you pick them up from school?
Yes.
So they were entirely in your care while she was gone?
Yes.
Did you spend time with them as a group upon her return from Alabama?
Yes.
Were you aware that she had had an affair while she was gone?
No.
Was your first recognition of severe marital problems on October 22nd, 2013?
No.
But you certainly recognized that there were some that day.
Yes.
Did your daughter come to your home that afternoon?
On the 22nd?
On the 22nd?
Yes.
What was her state of mind when she arrived?
She was nervous, scared.
Were her children with her?
They were with me already at the house.
Had you gotten them from school that day?
Yes.
How long was it before the defendant came to join all of you at the house?
My daughter got home around 3:30, or I was around that time, and Louis got home around 6:30, maybe 5, around that time. I know he left around almost 7 while we were talking.
How long do you think he stayed and talked to your daughter?
For about an hour and a half to 2.
So if he left almost around 7, what time do you think he got there?
Got to where? To my house?
To your house? Yes, ma'am.
He got to my house around, I think it was around 5.
Did you ever have an opportunity to overhear or participate in that conversation?
Yes.
What was the general tone and tenor of that conversation?
He was telling me that Jesse had cheated on him, and we were talking about, I told him, why did he hit Jesse? And he started saying he didn't hit her. And I did, and we just went on off, talking conversation. And I used to leave and talk and went inside to cook. So I was like in and out checking on the kids.
Was he angry?
Yes, he was.
Was he loud?
Yes.
Was your daughter angry?
She was crying. She was sad.
Was she loud?
No.
At the time of that conversation, did you know that your daughter had asked him for a divorce?
Yes.
How did the conversation at your home end?
With my daughter? After he left.
Well, I'm sorry. How did the conversation between the two of them?
Oh, them?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, all of a sudden I went to the kitchen, and then when I came back, because the conversation was in the garage, and then all of a sudden Jesse come in, and I said, did he leave? But then he wanted a water or something. He came back in. We were eating, and I offered him food anyway, and I gave it to him, and then he left. But Jesse has said they became in an agreement.
And I think you testified a moment ago, but I want to make sure. What time did Mr. Toledo leave your house that night?
Around 7.
Did your daughter immediately leave the house?
No.
And how long did she stay at your house?
Around 8, she left the house. She took a shower. We ate, and then it was around 8 when she left.
Did you try to get her to stay at your house?
Yes.
Did she ultimately leave?
Is that good?
Did she ultimately leave your house?
Yeah, she wanted to sleep on her bed.
You said she wanted to sleep in her bed?
She wanted to sleep on her bed, she said to me.
Is that the last time you ever saw your daughter?
Yes.
Is that the last time you ever talked to your daughter?
Yes.
Is that the last time you saw your grandchildren?
Yes.
Did you ever talk to them again after that?
No.
Have you, over the relationship with your daughter, have you developed a practice of talking to her every day?
Yes.
Tell us how those conversations occurred and when they occurred.
Every morning when my daughter used to go to school, take the kid to school, she used to call me. At her lunch, she used to call me. My daughter used to call me for any little thing. She used to call me.
But you spoke with her every morning. That was the practice.
Yes.
And what time did that call usually take place?
What time?
What time did the call usually take place?
Around 7:38, 7:38, around that time.
What time did you typically leave for work?
5 in the morning.
Still dark out?
Yes.
As you left the subdivision where you lived, did you pass their house?
Yes, front and back.
Did you pass their house on October 23rd, 2013?
Yes.
Do you have any particular feelings as you passed the house that day?
No.
Sustain.
When you passed the house, did you look at the house?
Yes, I always used to do.
What did you notice about the outside of the house?
In the front, everything was the same, but on the back, the light was on.
Was that odd to you?
Yeah, because they usually didn't leave it on.
Other than that, nothing stood out?
No.
Normal morning.
Yes.
When was the first time that you became alarmed that something was different?
Because my daughter didn't call me. And
Did she have any reason to run away from home or to cut ties with you and your family?
no, not at all.
Did the children have any reason to run away from home or cut ties with you and your family?
No.
Did they miss major events in their own lives and the life of your family as well?
Yes.
Birthdays,
Yes.
holidays,
Birthday, holidays.
graduation, funerals?
Yes.
How long did the search effort last for them or for their bodies with law enforcement?
I'll say for a month, but they had never stopped either. Everybody's still looking.
Is it fair to say that this was a high-profile search effort?
Yes.
Is that something that your daughter would have responded to if she was alive?
Of course. Yes.
Do you think that she would have reached out to you to ease your pain?
Yes.
Ma'am, I'm showing you what's been marked as case exhibit SS. To identify identification, do you recognize that document?
Yes.
Tell us what that is, please.
Alia's birth certificate.
And can you tell us the date on which it was
Over 8. 2004.
showing you what's been marked QC, identification. Tell us what that document is.
Michael Elijah's birth certificate, August 19, 2005.
Now I'm showing you what's been marked with 5 days. You recognize that item?
Yes.
Does it bear your signature?
Yes.
Have you reviewed the photographs on that item
Yes.
today?
Yes.
Does it contain water and grandchildren and the like?
Yes.
Judge, if there are no objections, the state would move states SS, TP, and 5J into evidence before the next public 5J.
Without objection, the items will be admitted into evidence. Give me the numbers of the birth certificates. What number are you going to give them? Stage one?
Judge, if we could have access to the screen when you have a moment. Thank you, sir. Ma'am, I'm going to show you a series of photographs. I'd like you to tell us when they were taken and who they're of.
You need the lights dimmed down, or?
I think we're okay, Judge. I'm showing you what's been marked with State's Exhibit A of
Number 3.
number 3. Thank you. Can you tell us who this is, ma'am?
That's Yessenia, Jesse, for her 2 years graduation from college from Valencia.
That's from her associate's degree?
Yes,
The one that she wasn't particularly proud of, just a stepping stone.
yes.
And when did that picture, or when did that event occur? When was that picture taken?
In May, but I don't remember the year. 2000, well, they were already married, 2011, May 2011.
Showing you B of Exhibit 3.
That's Elisha. That was his last picture from school. His last picture from school,
And what year was that taken?
2013.
C, Exhibits.
Yeah. Her last picture from 3rd grade, 2013.
And they were both in the same grade, right?
Yes, yes.
Were these two photographs their 3rd grade pictures?
Yes.
Showing you Exhibit D.
Yeah, that's the principal giving Toledo an award. That was in 2nd grade.
So this would have been the year before in school.
Yes.
Showing you State's Exhibit E, I'd like to point out the 317 Covent Gardens, that red dot there. Do you live in that area as well, ma'am?
Yes.
With respect to north, south, east, west, where do you live in relationship to that, or where did you live in relationship to that red dot?
The one on the bottom.
The one at 317 Covent Gardens there, and kind of in the middle of the picture.
Paddington. Oh, is that the one in Paddington? Jesse live in Covent.
Sorry?
I live in Paddington and Jesse live in Covent.
Okay. Is Paddington just north of?
Why don't we get the jury out? Go into the jury room, please.
Jury's out present before Your Honor.
Okay, don't speak too loud because I think they can hear. Yes, sir. Cleared?
We've already walked out. It's very loud. You've asked for this not to occur. Very prejudicial to what's going on. And you ask that. I don't see what happened. Is that a mini talk that you're talking about? You've asked for there not to be unnecessary, and so you ask for
Okay.
Judge, I'm a bad person to look to on the record because I literally didn't hear anything. So I don't know if there's a have spoken with the family. I haven't heard any outbursts. Very well that
So the record is clear. I've been closely monitoring it because I'm just expecting some outward emotion, and some folks did get teary-eyed, bury their hands in their head, and then one of them did stand up and walked out. But I'm not inclined to clear the courtroom based upon what I've seen so far. I would caution those of you who are here If you can't listen to the testimony without any outward show of emotion, please leave the courtroom. I know this is very, very difficult, but at the same time, the jury can't be distracted by what's going on over there. They have to be focused on what's happening over here, okay? So the motion to clear the courtroom will be denied. However, the gentleman that did walk out has expressed the most emotion, and I'm concerned about him. I don't know who he is. A gentleman wearing a light blue shirt.
That's the father of Yessenia.
Okay, what he needs to know is that if he displays any more emotions, I will partially grant the defense's motion and exclude him from the trial.
Okay.
If he can't watch the trial without becoming angry, upset, or, he hasn't gone over the line yet, but I've been watching him very, very, very closely, and I think the family cautioned him to calm down at some point in time. So I'm keeping a close eye on him.
Okay.
So you make sure that whoever that person is gets told, either stay out or come in here and don't react.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
I'll personally speak to him at the next break.
All right, we're ready for the jury?
Yes.
All right, bring the jury in. At some point in time, you'll learn to line yourselves up from the jury room and not step over each other's toes.
Jurors in the presence of the court, seated jurors are there.
Judge, I've been informed that the defense has a new objection.
Yeah, music. Hideous sound. Okay, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Yeah. Ms. Perez, we give you a laser pointer, but it doesn't work on the screens. Did you live in the general neighborhood of 317 Covent Gardens there, where the red dot is?
Yes.
Okay. And you were just a couple houses away from your daughter, you said?
Yes,
Is 317 Covent Gardens where she lived
yes,
with the defendant, Luis Toledo,
yes,
and her 2 children?
yes,
Showing you what's been marked State's Exhibit F on State's 3. You recognize this photograph?
yes, I took that.
I'm sorry?
Yes, I took that picture. There was the uniform.
And when did you take that picture, ma'am?
It was within that.
News. Not in every single press. Was this photograph shown just after you appeared on the news many times crying?
Yes,
Thank you, ma'am. I don't have any other questions.
All right, thank you. I do want to clarify, Exhibits A through F are all part of Exhibit 3, State's Evidence Number 3. Okay, thank you. All right, any cross-examination?
And Judge, I'm going to unplug my computer. I don't know if you need to kill the screen. Thank you. Okay.
You said in your testimony, okay?
yes.
If you don't understand my question, just tell me and I'll be glad. Tell me and I'll be glad to answer it again, or if you need a moment, just let me know, okay?
Yes,
Can you hear me okay?
yes,
In the lives of Yessenia and Lewis, there were times when Lewis would leave at night all the time, right?
yes,
So, I mean, you already knew that he did that, right?
yes,
He would go someplace nobody knew, right?
yes,
That bothered you, isn't that correct?
yes.
It didn't necessarily bother your daughter, though, right?
It did bother her too.
It bothered her, too, but he would leave in the middle of the night, right?
Say that again?
Also, when they it's pretty fair to say that you were over there all the time, isn't that right? Isn't that right?
No, not at their house.
You were over there, they were with you, but you were in...
Yes,
And sometimes with Lewis.
yes, I dropped them off there.
Pretty much daily, though, right?
Yes,
Lewis called you mom, right?
yes,
And you let him call you mom, didn't you?
yes,
Even though you weren't for the marriage, you accepted the marriage because that's what your daughter wanted, isn't it?
yes,
You wanted to be around your daughter, that's who she married, isn't that right?
yes,
So, is it fair to say that you were pretty involved in their lives?
yes,
Okay. Your daughter wasn't scared of Lewis, was she?
no,
You never saw her say to you she was scared of him or anything like that, right?
well, I did once.
Well, she told you that he would never hurt them. Isn't that right?
Yeah, that, yeah,
Okay. And so when she was arguing or they were arguing, you were never, that was never the issue. Isn't that right?
say that again.
Okay, jury sal, you may be seated. Go ahead and proffer the questions that you want to proffer.
Okay. First, Ms. Perez, do you remember, since it's a proffer, I'm going to do it informally if there's no objection.
There is no objection to the proffer. Whatever comes out, comes out.
I asked you before,
I asked you before if your daughter thought Lewis was an angel, and you said you didn't remember saying that to me, but on the day I took your deposition on page 15 in line 22 and 23, it says, your daughter asked you not to ask the children questions, and that if that was the case, she wasn't going to let you see them anymore. Do you remember saying that to me?
Yes.
The next thing you said was she thought Lewis was an angel. You said that. Do you remember saying that?
I don't remember.
Okay, but if it's in here, do you
Okay.
dispute it?
Yeah.
Okay. Next thing is, you said when they argued, they only argued like married people, and that hurt them. You remember saying that to me?
Yes.
And so when I asked you that was the answer to the question. Lewis said they would never hurt them. You added another line to that, which was something that you're referring to, and I don't know what it is. Would you mind telling me?
Can I explain that?
Sure.
When I said to you that she didn't feel afraid of him, my thing was the 3 days before the incident, remember? When he pulled the knife? That's what was going there. She was afraid there. She was afraid. But then after that day that she left my house, she said, Mommy, he would never hurt us.
Okay.
He even said that. He would never hurt us. He loved them too much.
Okay, so that's the incident we were referring to, Your Honor. That's been presented to you pre-trial involving the picture being cut. We don't think it's relevant. We've asked that it not be admitted. I don't want to say the wrong thing, but I don't know that it's been ruled on. Has it been? And that it's out. It's in. Okay, so we weren't trying to talk about it either. So I asked that question, it got added in. I'm not trying to go any further with it. I wasn't trying to at all. I was just trying to clarify the question that I'd asked.
Okay. Exactly what do you want from me?
I just wanted to proffer it. I wanted to clarify it with the witness. I want to be able to ask the questions without reference to it. I wasn't referring to it. I never was.
Okay. Well, what do you want me to do? Instruct her not to talk about the incident with the knife?
Yes.
Okay. Anything from the staff?
that's fine, but it doesn't change the fact that your daughter was pregnant. You can't have your case be
Anything else?
No.
All right. Don't talk about the incident with the knife.
Okay?
All right.
That's the proffer.
Okay. Then what we'll do is we'll take our break. We'll take a 15-minute break as well. Okay?
All right.
Thought that Lewis might be having an affair.
Right there? No, but I know it happened before.
You think it happened before, but
Yes.
right then is what I'm talking about. That he had an affair, or he was having an affair because you didn't understand why he was acting the way he was acting.
I thought there was a situation going on, and that's the reason Jesse left the kids with me.
But really it was the other way around, right?
Apparently, yes.
If on the day that, I'm skipping up now, on the day that you went back to the house on the 23rd, do you remember that morning? You've described it.
Yes.
I'm not going back through all of that with you, but I do want to talk to you about when you got there, you saw Tyshawn Jackson, did you not?
Yes.
Where was he?
In front of his door, his house.
He was at his house, right?
Yes.
And it's right next door, right?
Yes.
Did you walk up to him by yourself?
To Tyson? No, I didn't walk to him. I just
Yeah, you could-
I
'cause it was
said,
close
I didn't know his name.
Right.
Said no.
He said no. And then, did you talk to him again?
Yes.
Was he by himself then?
Yes.
This time, the second time he was by himself?
Yes.
Did he tell you something different?
I forgot. He did say something, but I cannot remember.
But it wasn't the same thing he told you before, right?
No.
But you don't remember what it was?
No.
Okay. Did you see him a third time?
Yes.
Was he by himself then?
No.
Who was he with then?
With his mom.
How did you know it was his mom?
Because I knew his mom.
So you knew her. Okay. Did he tell you, did you ask him a third time?
Yes.
Did he tell you a third story?
I don't remember what he said, but yes.
It was, even if you don't remember exactly,
Yes.
he told you 3 different things, isn't that right?
Yes.
How long between the first time and the third time? About, I know you.
Within the hour that I was there.
Okay, all right. So that would have been the 3 times you saw him and you spoke to him, right?
Yes.
Did his mom ever say anything?
Right there? No.
But she was there?
Yes.
May I have just a moment, Your Honor?
Yes, sir.
When your daughter decided to go home that night on the 22nd, she wasn't worried about going home, was she? She just wanted to go home and sleep in her own bed. Isn't that right?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Judge.
Any redirect?
Briefly. Ma'am, before October 23rd, 2013, you really didn't know Tyshawn Jackson at all, did you?
I had seen him in their house, but it's not that I knew him. You know, just hello, goodbye, or when I went to Louis' house, that's it.
Just somebody you'd seen but never really talked to?
No.
No sense of who he was as a person or how he reacted to things?
No.
Is it possible the first time he saw you that morning that he could have been scared out of his mind?
I would say yes.
Sustained.
Did he seem more comfortable when he was with his mom?
Yes.
Overrule.
Ma'am, did he seem more comfortable talking to you when he was with his mom?
Yes, even though we didn't say much, but yes.
And now I want to go back to the 22nd when your daughter and the defendant were talking about what was going to happen next in their life. It was clear to you that they were separating, right?
Yes.
That they were divorcing.
Yes.
That this marriage was over.
Yes.
They were dividing property.
Yes.
They were talking about what to do with the kids in the house.
Yes.
Okay. There isn't a chance they were getting back together, right? You didn't misinterpret that?
No.
Sustained.
Did you ever hear them talk about getting back together?
No.
Okay. Did you ever hear them talk about getting rebaptized and starting their life anew?
No.
Did you ever hear them talk about all the great possibilities that lied ahead?
No.
The relationship was over, right?
Yes.
Thank you.
I think any... Yes, sir.
Ma'am, do you know what they talked about when they went home?
When they went home now, I know what they talk about while they were in my house.
That's what you know about. But after they left, you don't know what they talked about, do you?
But my daughter shared with me what
Well,
was
you don't
going to
know.
happen.
You don't know what they talked about, do you?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any direct? All right, thank you. Witness may step down. The witness excused from the rule of sequestration should be permitted to remain in the courtroom. Your next witness, please.
They called Ron Nathan.
If you will raise your right hand and be sworn, please. Thank you. You may have a seat. Make sure you speak loud and clear so the viewers can hear what you have to say, okay?
Inquire, Your Honor.
You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Thank you, sir. Can you please introduce yourself to the jury?
I am Ronald Nathan. I am the former principal of Bentley Elementary School. I have since retired from the school system.
Okay. And you said the former principal of Bentley Elementary School.
Yes.
And what county is that located in?
That's a Seminole County Public Schools.
And, sir, how long did you serve as principal at Bentley Elementary School in Seminole County?
I served 13 years at Bentley. I actually opened the school.
Okay. And some people may know this simply because they might have kids, but for those who might not, what grades are taught what grades were taught at Bentley Elementary?
At Bentley Elementary housed pre-K through 5th grade.
Approximately how many students went to Bentley Elementary School back in 2013?
Well, it grew from year to year, but I would say for the last 5 or 6 years that I was there, it was at least 1,100 to 1,200 students.
Okay, and you were the principal of the school, correct?
That's correct.
Now, is it fair to say with that many students, you might know who a student was, but might not know them very well? Is that fair to say?
I would know them, but not very well, actually.
Did you know Michael and Talia Otto as students at Bentley Elementary School in 2013?
Yes, I did.
Your Honor, if I could have you activate the screen. Mr. Nathan, I am showing you what's been entered into evidence on State's Exhibit 3, and this is Photo D on that PowerPoint slide presentation. Do you recognize this photo? If you can either look at the big screen there.
Sorry.
Do you recognize this?
Graham, is that not on?
Can you see the big screen, sir?
I can see the big one.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you recognize the photo on that screen?
Yes.
Who is in the photo on the screen?
That's myself along with Thalia.
Okay. And can you tell us what event is this? Is this picture from?
This was an annual reading celebration that we had the entire, at least 10 of the 13 years that I was there. Students had to earn points by reading books and taking tests on the books in order to get those points, and they would earn the right to attend the reading celebration. We would have at least 600 of our students would actually earn that right. It's a big affair. The entire families were invited to this event. It got so big, we moved it to the gymnasium at Lake Mary High School, and we would sit our 600 students on the floor, and parents and family members in the bleachers, and we would award each student for their for earning the right to come to the reading celebration with trophies, as you can see, certificates, books, and T-shirts.
Okay, and you said it was a reading celebration. This was a program that you had at school where students were encouraged to read books?
That's correct. And went further with not just reading them, but they had to take tests on them so that we could measure comprehension as well.
Measure comprehension, you say?
Yes, I did.
And in order to get an award and to be able to participate in the celebration, as you put it, what would a student have to do?
Each student would earn so many points, and we set it up by grade levels.
Okay, and for each book they read, they
What is the relevancy?
just a couple of questions and I'll move on, Judge.
Sustain.
Thank you, Judge. Now, this photo, sir, this photo was taken the year prior?
We did it every year, and they were there three, I don't know which year that particular picture is.
Okay. And was this something that happened at the end of each year?
At the end of each year, yes.
Thank you, Judge. You can take it off. Now, during the 2013-2014 school year, what grades was Talia and Michael Elijah Otto in?
Michael and Toledo would have been in third grade that year.
Now, and this may seem like an obvious question, but an important one. In your school, as in any school probably, is it required for the schools to keep attendance?
Yes, it is.
And can you tell us exactly how did Bentley Elementary School keep attendance?
Each morning, each teacher would take their attendance and they would send it to the office electronically by 9 o'clock.
Okay.
Their attendance had to be in.
All right, so the students would show up for school, correct? And they would go to their class?
That's correct.
And then the teachers in each classroom would take roll?
Take attendance.
And then they would electronically report that or transmit that to the office?
That's correct.
And what was the purpose of that?
Well, that's to verify that the students were there and for documentation for the secretaries to make sure they submitted the information for FTE counts.
Okay. And was a student's record of attendance, either their absences, their tardiness, was that something that the school kept as a record?
Yes, it is something that we kept as a record.
Approach, Your Honor.
You may. But any objection to the exhibit? There is an objection. Can I hear it? Sure. The item will be admitted into evidence.
Mr. Nathan, I'm showing you what this entered into before. Look at that showing.
Yes, I do. Yes,
sir?
Yes, I do recognize it.
Now, are those the school attendance records for Michael and Talia Otto?
Yeah, these are their records for that year, 2013-14, beginning of that school year, to
Now, I want to take you to October the 23rd. Well, let me back up just one step. What date did the school year start for the 2013-2014 school year?
that would have been August 12th,
Okay.
2013.
Now, I want to take you to October the 23rd of 2013. Do you recall being there at Bentley Elementary School that day and some inquiries, becoming aware of some inquiries being made concerning the whereabouts of Michael and Talia Otto?
The inquiry that came to me came from my secretary that the grandmother had called inquiring.
Okay. So you were aware that there were some questions about whether or not they were at school that day?
Yes.
And were they at school that day?
The 23rd, they were not.
Now, I want to ask you some questions about the attendance up until that date, from the beginning of the school year on August the 12th up until October the 23rd. What was the attendance? What were Michael and Talia's attendance like from the beginning of the school year until October the 23rd, 2013?
After checking the records, they had been tardy only once, and they're perfect attendance otherwise.
So they had perfect attendance other than a single tardiness.
That's correct.
After October the 23rd, sir, October the 23rd, 2013, did either Michael or Talia Otto ever return to Bentley Elementary School?
No, they did not.
Now, at some point, did you have to close out their records there at the school?
Yes.
Now, I want to ask you some questions about just generally how school records work. If you have a student who transfers from another school to Bentley Elementary School, would it be a common practice to request that student's records from the school that they attended previously?
That is a practice that we do.
And what is the reason for that?
That's to verify their grade level, to make sure we're placing them properly in the right grades as well.
And conversely, if a student transfers from Bentley Elementary and goes to another school, do you typically get requests from the other school for that student's records from your school?
Yes, that's the receiving school would request their records from us, and we don't send them until they make the request.
Okay. Did you ever become aware at any point in time of any other school anywhere ever requesting the school records for Michael and Talia Otto?
Not to my knowledge.
May I have a moment, Your Honor?
Yes, sir.
No further questions.
Any cross-examination?
Good afternoon, Mr. Nathan. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir, I can.
Thank you. Did you say what their attendance record was before the 22nd of October?
Did I say?
Did you say that?
I don't understand your question.
I thought I heard you, and I just wanted to clarify. Did I hear you say that what their attendance record was prior to October 22nd?
Yes, that they only had one tardy.
Was it on the same day?
For both of them, yes.
So prior to that, they'd only been late once.
They only been late, yes.
Okay, so every other day they were at school,
That's correct.
according to the attendance records.
Yes, right.
Mr. Nathan, did you know them before this happened?
Well, I knew, as
Generally
well as
who they
I
were.
would know students, I make my walkthroughs daily, and, you see students and you greet them, you know them.
Sure.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, sir. I don't have any other questions.
Thank you. Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
May the witness be excused. Thank you, sir. You are free to go. Call your next witness.
This had a state called Owen. Your Honor, may we approach?
Yes, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, if you can take a very short recess, 5 minutes. You can step right in there. We'll take a break. Okay, we're ready for the jury?
There's all to you, Your Honor.
Thank you. You may be seated. Sir, if you'll remain standing, raise your right hand and be sworn, please. Have a seat. Thank you. Make sure you speak loud and clear so that yours can hear what you have to say.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, sir. Could you introduce yourself to the jury?
My name's Peter Owen.
All right, sir. And how are you employed?
Currently,
Yes, sir.
I am working for a company called SOC, which is a private security company providing security services to clients in Iraq and Afghanistan and Africa.
And how long have you been employed in that job?
A little over 3 weeks,
Okay, so brand new.
brand new.
Where did you work immediately prior to that company?
I worked for AM Canine Detection Services for a little over 7 years.
And when you refer to it as a AM Canine, is that also known as American Canine?
Yes, sir. American Canine Detection Services.
And approximately how long did you work there?
A little over 7 years.
Can you just explain exactly what kind of services American Canine provides?
They provide canine detection services, be it bomb disposal, drug disposal, human remains, any kind of canine detection services. At the time, primarily in Iraq, Afghanistan, and here in the continental United States to both government clients and commercial clients like the oil companies in southern Iraq, etc.
Okay, and when you talk about government clients, who specifically would you be referring to?
The Department of Defense, Department of State, the IRS, primarily are the three big ones.
What was your title and duties with the company?
I started as the Director of Operations, and after 3 years, I was promoted to Vice President of Operations.
And where was the home office located? When I say where was, I'm referring to around the 2013 timeframe. At that time, where was the home office located?
In Lake Mary, Florida.
And did you have other offices located in other cities?
Not offices per se. We had our kennel in San Antonio, Texas, and we had a kennel outside of Lake Mary, but our office, our corporate office, was right there in Lake Mary.
What office did you primarily work out of?
Lake Mary office.
And where was that located? What was the address of that location?
Primera Boulevard, I can't remember the number, 735 Primera or Primera Boulevard.
Okay. And now you said that was in Lake Mary, correct?
Lake Mary, Florida.
Did you know an individual by the name of Yessenia or Yessenia Suarez?
I did.
And how did you know her?
She was a fellow employee at the company. She worked in humans HR, human relations side of the house, and helped with hiring, firing, and all of our employees around the world.
And did she also work out of the Lake Mary office?
She did.
Now, up until October 2013, do you know how long she had worked for American Canine?
I want to say a little over a year, but I'm not exactly sure.
Did you have much interaction with her?
I did. I wouldn't say it was daily, but several times a week we would interface regarding employees around the world with employee actions and that sort of thing.
Do you recall approximately how many employees you had working in the AMK office there in Lake Mary at the time?
It was approximately 50. It was, when I first started, it was as few as 20, but I think in 2013 we had somewhere around 50.
For what contact you did have with her, how would you describe her as an employee at American Canine?
Superb, outspoken, confident, knew what she was doing. You could count on her to get things done and very supportive. We had upwards of 500 employees around the world, taking care of dog handlers, et cetera. She was very good at helping us keep track of all the requirements for those employees.
Was her job a particularly complicated one?
As far as human relations go, I don't know that it was super complicated, but it was, when you're dealing with international employees, we had employees from 16 different countries, makes it complicated, all the laws and taking care of those folks. So yes, I think so.
Were you at the Lake Mary office specifically on October the 22nd of 2013?
I was.
And you recall approximately what time you got to the office that day?
I usually got in about 7:30 a.m.
And just so we kind of have some understanding of kind of what the office looked like, can you kind of describe the offices, the building there in Lake Mary?
I can. It was a structure where there were offices on two levels, and to get from one level to the other, you had to physically go outside of the office complex and either go up a stairwell or an elevator, which was also outside, and then go in either upstairs or downstairs. You could not go from one floor to the other and stay inside the building. So you had to exit the building and either go down some stairs or take an elevator that was outside.
Have you had an opportunity to see a photograph of the building prior to your testimony today?
I have, yes, sir.
May.
Showing you this is marked for identification purposes. AK, 5K. You recognize that?
I do.
Is that a disc with the photograph that we were talking about?
It is.
And is a fair and accurate photograph of that office building?
It is.
On and offer 5Ks into evidence? No objection.
Without objection, it'll be admitted. Yes, subject to additional rulings by the court.
Your Honor, can we
Yes, sir.
activate the screen? All right, Mr. Owen, I'm showing you what's essentially photo A from the disc that you just identified. This photograph here, is that a picture of the office building that American Canine was located in 2013?
It is.
All right. And as you said, your offices were located on two different floors. Is that correct?
Correct.
Is that on the first floor of this building and on the second floor?
Correct. Over to as you're looking at that building, over to the right side, yes.
Okay. So we see some sort of windows there in the kind of the corner facing that entranceway. It's not on that end, it's on the other end?
That's correct.
Okay. And you said that in order to get from the downstairs to the upstairs, there's not really a way to do that from inside the building. Is that right?
That's correct.
You had to go outside and go up a set of stairs on the outside of the building.
Correct. They were all covered. Everything was covered, and there were hallways outside that were covered, but yes, that's correct.
The doors that you had to get in and out of the office building, were they secure in any way?
They were. We had a badge system. You had to have a badge to get in and out.
Was there a smoking area anywhere on your premises?
Yes, on the first floor. It was right outside of my office window, which was right next to one of the main exits and entrances into the first floor office area.
All right. And was your office located on the downstairs floor or the upstairs floor?
On the downstairs floor.
Do you recall seeing Yessenia Suarez that morning?
I do not. I did not see her that morning.
Did you see her at a later time?
I saw her at a later time, yes.
Do you recall approximately what time?
It was the morning. I can't tell you exactly when.
All right. What were you doing when you saw her?
I walked out the door to go upstairs, and there were two co-workers standing in the smoking area. One of them was smoking, the other was talking. I stopped and was talking to them with my back to the parking lot.
Okay. And who were the two employees that you were speaking to?
Mike Miranti and Kevin Breton.
And who is Mike Miranti and who is Kevin Breton? Just take one of those at a time.
Mike Miranti was our kennel director. He managed all the off-site kennels for us. He did all the support for us there at AMK9. And Kevin Dredden worked for me, was what we called our deployment manager. His job was to deploy new handlers and new personnel around the world, wherever we needed them. He had to make sure they had all their paperwork, all their medicals done, and the canines were trained and all that.
And so when you saw them there, you said one of them was smoking, one was not, and they were talking. You stopped and talked to them as well?
That's correct.
And you said that your back was to the parking lot?
Correct.
And do you recall how long you stood there and was talking to Mike Miranti and Kevin Dredden?
Probably no more than 5 minutes at that point, 5 to 7, 5 to 8 minutes.
And what happened as you were talking to Mr. Miranti and Mr. Dredden?
Judge, at this time, it's up to the check based on the ruling, or we may have to for any further testimony.
So the court's prior ruling will stand.
Thank you, Your Honor. You can answer the question. What happened while you were standing there talking to Mr. Miranti and Mr. Dredden?
The two of them, I was talking to them and they were distracted. They were looking past me over my right shoulder and looking at something else. So I stopped talking, turned around, and saw an individual walking down the sidewalk in front of where some cars were parked.
And what did he do when you turned around?
My recollection is he stopped and turned and went across the parking lot.
Did you recognize the man?
I did not recognize him at that time.
Had you ever seen or met him before?
I had.
Okay. And where did you? When I said you recognized, did you mean you did not recognize him by name, but by face, perhaps?
I just didn't. I guess I just took a quick glance, so I didn't really pay attention to who it was at that time.
Okay.
I met him 2 other times, but it just didn't. I didn't register who it was
At the time.
at the time.
But later you.
Yes.
Okay. Where had you seen him before? This man.
I met him at a Christmas party, a company Christmas party, and I met him at Yessenia's desk. He had come to see her, and I just happened to be there, and we talked for a little bit while he was visiting Yessenia.
Did you recognize them as Yessenia's husband or someone that Yessenia knew?
I did, not right then, but soon thereafter I did, yes.
Do you see that person in the courtroom today?
Sorry?
Do you see that person in the courtroom today?
I do.
And can you point to him and describe an article of clothing that he's wearing?
He's wearing the dark suit over here, the second person from the left at the table.
May the record reflect the witness has identified the defendant?
The record will so reflect.
What did you do after you saw him at the defendant?
I turned back around and tried to carry on my conversation.
All right. And did you see where the defendant went after you did that?
I did not.
Did you at some point in time see Yessenia Suarez?
Yes, it was probably 5 to 7 minutes later. Both Luis and Yessenia came down the outside stairs and out into the parking lot.
Okay. And you said they were coming downstairs into the parking lot, is that correct?
On the sidewalk and kind of heading out into the parking lot. That's correct.
What were they doing?
They were having what I would consider a heated conversation based on their gestures and their hand motions.
And what happened next?
Mike Miranti said, "Uh-oh, there's trouble." And Kevin Dredden said, "I'm going to go take care of this."
Okay.
And then Kevin walked away and went over to where Yessenia and Luis were having a conversation in the parking lot.
And what did you do?
At that point, Mike Miranti said, "There's going to be trouble. Luis thinks that Yessenia and Kevin are having an affair."
Now, where did the conversation between Yessenia Suarez and the defendant, where did that take place?
In the parking lot right next to some cars there.
Did you hear what they were talking about?
Could not hear it.
Did you stand there and observe for a few minutes?
I did. At that point, I wanted to make sure there was not going to be any trouble. So both Mike and I stayed right there and watched. Kevin went over and the three of them continued to have a conversation.
What happened next?
Then it looked like it was breaking up. Luis started walking towards where his car had been parked, and Kevin and Yessenia were walking towards the door near where I was standing.
And what did you do?
At that point, I thought it was over, so I went back in to that door and headed into my office.
After that, did you hear or see anything unusual occur?
Yes, it was another several minutes later. I was in my office and I heard yelling down the hallway. And so I came out of my office to see what was happening. I looked to my left and I saw Yessenia and Luis clear down the hall near where our legal section had their offices.
Okay. Now, how much time had passed between when you saw them in the parking lot and you thought it had broken up and you saw the defendant sort of walking back to his car, Yessenia and Kevin Breton coming back into the... How much time had passed between then and when you heard the hollering?
I want to say less than 5 minutes.
Do you know who was hollering?
Yeah, it was Yessenia and Luis, I think. Mainly Yessenia.
And you said the defendant as well?
Yes.
And do you remember what he was saying?
He was looking for me. Where's Mr. Pete? Where's Mr. Pete? I need to see Mr. Pete.
Did you identify yourself and let him know that that's who you were?
At that point, I moved to the foyer area where I'd just come in, and I didn't want to go down the hall. I wanted to get him out of the building. So I stopped there so he could come to me. I said, come here to me. Kevin Breton was standing there and Mike Miranti, which he did. He came to me and he had Yessenia's cell phone in his hand and said, I want you to see this. You've got to see this. They're having an affair. You need to see this.
What was Yessenia doing?
She was following behind him, trying to get the phone back and saying, stop this. You need to leave.
Did he tell you why he wanted you to look at these text messages?
Yes, because it was between Yessenia. He said it was between Yessenia and Kevin Breton.
And they were both employees there at American.
Correct. And because Kevin worked for me, he wanted me to know that one of my employees was having an affair.
Did you look at the phone at all?
I did not look at it.
Did you touch the phone, take it from him, or anything like that?
I did not. I kept asking him, let's go outside.
What was going through your mind when all of this was going on?
It looked like there was going to be a fight, a physical fight.
What did you do in response?
Tried to get him outside and calm the situation.
So what happened next?
Mike Miranti grabbed the phone, took the phone, and apparently read it. Then he handed it back to Luis, and it almost simultaneously, Yessenia grabbed the phone and got it out of his hand, out of Luis's hand. At that point, he turned quickly, and it looked like there was definitely going to be an physical altercation at that time. So I was ready to do whatever needed to be done. Jessica was calling the police, I guess, at that point, calling 911. At that point, Luis said, these two are having an affair. You need to know it. He turned and went out the door. I followed him to where the door shut, watched him go to his car and leave.
Now, just to be clear, did you see anybody get into a physical altercation or a fight?
I did not.
Without saying anything about what she may have said, what was Yessenia's demeanor while all this was going on?
She was, let me think of the word to describe it. Not frantic. She was embarrassed. She was upset. She wanted this situation to end and wanted him to leave.
Was she crying?
Not at that point.
Okay, was she at some point?
She came to my office after he had left, and she was crying and upset and apologizing to me that this occurred.
Now, you said that after you saw Jessica, the receptionist, call 911, the defendant made some further comments and left the office. Is that correct? What did Yessenia do after, well, let me back up one. At some point in time after the defendant left, did the police come there?
Yes.
Okay. What did Yessenia do? Did she stay at work the rest of the day?
I don't believe she did. She was interviewed in our conference room by law enforcement, and I believe she went home soon thereafter, but I'm not 100% sure.
Okay. Mr. Owen, did Yessenia Suarez ever show up for work again after that?
She did not.
She was not terminated, correct?
She was not.
She never offered a letter of resignation, or even verbally. Is that correct?
Correct.
She just never showed up for work again?
Correct.
How long did you continue working for American Canine after that?
4 more years.
And not in any of those years did she ever come back to work?
Sir.
Nothing further, Judge.
Any cross-examination?
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Mr. Owen, it's been a long time.
Yes.
Second, when you were outside with Mike and Kevin and you first saw Lewis, but you didn't really know it was Lewis.
Correct.
Was he in his car or was he just walking?
He was walking.
Was there anything unusual about him being there at this time?
No, I mean, it wasn't a normal occurrence to see him, but it was not unusual.
But he was just walking in.
That's correct.
He wasn't yelling or screaming or causing a ruckus.
That's correct.
So shortly after he walked by you, that's when Mike or Kevin said, uh-oh, this is going to be trouble.
Yes.
And then that's when you found out that apparently Yessenia and Kevin were having an affair.
No, that's when after they came back out of the building and Kevin walked away from me is when Mike said that Luis thought they were having an affair. That's the first time.
Okay, so he said that to you, but prior to that statement to you, you didn't know of any affair going on?
I didn't know what was happening, not at all. Correct.
So after you hear that, at some point, Lewis, Yessenia, and Kevin are all talking together?
Correct.
Okay. So that's kind of awkward, isn't it?
Yes.
So Lewis leaves at that point. You see him walking towards a parking lot, and you think he's leaving.
Well, they were in the parking lot. He was walking towards his vehicle, but Kevin and Yessenia were walking towards the door where I was at.
Okay, so Yessenia and the person who you just found out may be having an affair with, they're going back into work. Lewis is walking towards his car.
Correct.
You go back to your office because you think this is over with.
Yes.
Now, you can also get into entrances in the building by being buzzed in by a receptionist.
Correct.
So if you're with an employee who has a card, or a receptionist can buzz you in.
That's correct.
So you go back in the office and you hear yelling down the hall.
Correct.
It sounded like you were saying on direct examination that Yessenia was doing more of the yelling than Luis was.
I couldn't tell. There was both. Yessenia was wanting to get her phone back, but Luis was saying, "Where's Mr. Pete? Where's Mr. Pete?" So it was a combination of the two.
And Kevin, where was Kevin during all this?
He was, his office was at the end of the foyer, so he was either in his office or near his office. I think he came out when the ruckus started as well.
So they're all down there kind of in an area together.
No, not Kevin.
Not Kevin.
Kevin was with me in the foyer area. Down the hall near where our legal department was Yessenia and Luis. When Luis came in our foyer area, he took a left. My office was on the right. So he turned left, went clear down a fairly long hall to where our legal department was, and then was on his way back when I got out to the hall to the foyer area. They were on their way back towards me. And Kevin's office was right to the right of the foyer area. And Mike Miranti was there with me as well.
So when you hear Lewis saying, "Where's Pete? Where's Pete?" and you say, "I'm down here, come down here," he actually does come to you.
He does.
Right. So do you hear what him and Yessenia are talking about?
At that point, it seemed that she just wanted to get her phone back.
Right? And he wanted to show you proof of an affair.
That's correct.
So you thought that, well, at some point Yessenia grabbed her phone from Lewis's hand.
Yes.
And it wasn't a gentle grab. It was kind of a forceful, here's my phone, I'm taking it back now.
She reached over and took it out of his correct.
And he was surprised by that.
Yes, because he had his back to her at that point, and she reached around, took it out of his hand, and then he swung around and looked at her square in the eye. It looked like it was going to be more than physical at that point.
So things are pretty charged at this point.
Correct.
But it didn't get any charger then. It just stopped.
It did not.
At that point, Lewis did leave when you told him to leave.
He turned to Kevin and said, "I believe you're having an affair with my wife," or something to that effect. And then he left. Correct.
Towards his wife at that point. No threats towards Kevin at that point.
No.
No threats towards you at that point.
No.
And you saw him drive away.
Yes.
Did he bang anything, kick anything, yell and scream on his way out?
No, I don't think so. He backed out pretty quickly and left.
Now, when the police came, you were not interviewed by the police, were you?
I was not.
I know the police spoke with Yessenia. That was after you spoke with her in your office?
After she came into my office, that's correct. She came in immediately as soon as he left, came in crying and very apologetic, and then the police were there soon thereafter, and they went into our conference room.
You said that she started to cry when she was in your office?
Yes.
And if I recall, when I spoke with you previously, you didn't see any red marks on her face or any bruises on her face or anything that you can see that she was hit or anything?
I did not.
No further questions.
Thank you. Any redirect? All right, thank you. May the witness be excused?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you, sir. You're free to go.
Thank you.
He's not under, is he under subpoena?
Yeah, he's free to go.
Okay, thank you. You got another witness?
Yes, sir. The state calls Jessica Vandergriff. Can we take the screen down, Judge?
You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor.
I'm sorry, Ms. Sworn. Thank you. Stand up, raise your right hand, and be sworn.
Yes.
You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Hello.
Could you please introduce yourself to the jury?
I am Jessica Vandergriff.
Okay, and I'm going to ask you just to speak up.
Okay.
And if you need to get closer to the mic, please
Sorry.
feel free to do so. Ma'am, where do you live?
I live in Texas.
All right, and how are you employed?
I work for an electronic distribution company.
And I want to take you back to October of 2013. Where did you live then?
Deltona, Florida.
And where did you work at the time?
American Canine.
And what were your duties with American Canine?
I was the canine asset manager. I tracked all the dogs in our system for our operations team.
Okay. And was that office located at 735 Premier Boulevard in Lake Mary?
Yes.
Did you know somebody by the name of Yessenia Suarez?
Yes.
And how did you know her?
She worked in the HR department on the second floor.
Did you interact with her at work?
Not often.
All right. Did you have like a different job than she had?
Yeah, she worked more with the people in the HR, and I was on the dog side.
I see. Where was your office located in relation to her office?
My office was on the bottom floor, and towards the right. Hers was on the second floor to the left.
Okay. How often would you estimate that you would see her around the office?
It depends. We would alternate phones at lunch, so it depended on phone coverage. It could probably range from 1 to 5 days a week.
So, and if I understand you correctly, American Canine had a regular receptionist, is that right?
Yes, correct.
And then other employees during that receptionist lunch break would kind of fill in on the phones, is it?
Correct, or if she called out.
And you and Yessenia would swap those duties from time to time?
Correct.
Did you ever socialize with her there at work?
Not often, no.
Okay. Did you sometimes, though?
Yeah.
Do you know approximately how long you and Yessenia worked together there at American Canine?
She came in after me, so probably about a year.
Did you know her husband, Luis Toledo?
No.
Had you met him before?
At the office.
All right. And under what circumstances did you meet him?
I believe I met him at a Christmas party, and I also met him one afternoon that he brought Yessenia's children and lunch.
Okay. So once or twice you met him?
Yes.
Do you see him in the courtroom?
Yes, I do.
Can you point to him and describe an article of clothing he's wearing?
They're all in ties. The third gentleman in with glasses.
And may the record reflect that the witness has identified the defendant?
The record will so reflect.
Ms. Vandy Griff, were you working at American Canine specifically on October the 22nd of 2013?
Yes, I was.
Do you recall approximately what time you arrived at work that morning?
Do a pre-trial motion on testimony.
Say, of course, previous ruling will stand, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judge. You can answer the question. Do you recall approximately what time you arrived at work that morning?
8:30.
Did you, after you arrived at work, in the morning time, did you see Yessenia?
No.
Did you see Luis Toledo, the defendant?
I saw him later later that morning.
All right. Now, he didn't work there, is that correct?
No.
Do you recall approximately what time you saw him there at the office?
It was mid-morning, maybe between 10 and 11.
Where were you when you saw him?
I was at my desk.
All right. You said you worked on the first floor?
Yes.
Where was he when you saw him?
He had came in through the legal department entry, and he walked towards the operations area.
Now, I understand just from other testimony that the offices there are secure. The doors are not just anybody can come in and leave. Is that correct?
They can leave, but they can't come in.
Right,
Correct.
right. You have to have some type of access card to get in unless somebody lets you in. Is that right?
Correct.
And do you have any idea how he was able to get into the building?
I believe it was another entrance down on the legal department, another girl employed by the name of Cherie.
Okay. Now, when you saw the defendant, did you see where he went?
What do you mean?
Did you see where the defendant went after you saw him come into the office?
He peeped around the corner. He looked into Kevin's office and asked if he was in today, and I told him that he was off-site, that he was in the office, but just not there at the moment.
Okay, and you said, when you say Kevin, are you referring to Kevin Dredden?
Yes.
And Kevin Dredden's office was also located on the first floor?
Yes.
And you saw the defendant peek into Kevin Dredden's office and ask where he was at?
Correct.
And you told him that he wasn't there, he was off-site?
Correct.
Did you offer to take a message or anything like that?
I did.
And how did he respond?
He said no, that was okay, that he will be back.
He would be back?
Yes.
Did he leave the office at that point?
Yes.
Did you see Yessenia with him at the time?
No.
Did the defendant say anything about his wife when you saw him?
No.
He was just asking for Kevin Dredden?
Correct.
Did you, you indicated the defendant said that he would be back. Did you actually see him come back to the office?
I did.
And when was that?
It was a little after lunch. I was leaving the reception area, going down the stairwell, and I seen him and Yessenia in the stairway talking.
Okay. So you were at this time upstairs coming downstairs?
Correct.
And I understand that there is the stairs that are located there at the office was on the exterior of the building. Is that right?
Yes.
And so you were coming downstairs and you saw Yessenia Suarez and the defendant in the stairway.
Yes.
And what were they doing?
They were talking. They looked upset. I don't know what was said. It was in Spanish.
Okay. You said they were upset?
Yes.
Without really, what was the tone and the demeanor? Well, let's talk specifically about the defendant. What was his tone and demeanor as you heard them speaking?
He just seemed upset and...
Okay. How would you describe the conversation?
It's hard to tell. It was in Spanish. I just knew that it wasn't a good conversation.
Okay.
And I try and avoid animosity, so I just kind of slipped on by.
Okay. Would it be fair to say it was an intense conversation?
Yes.
Oh, he was angry?
Maybe.
What did you do when you saw them arguing?
I walked past them and went back to my desk.
Now, did you see where they went after you passed them in the stairway?
A few minutes later, I saw them out in the parking lot speaking.
And were they still having this intense conversation?
I would think so.
Did you see anybody walk up and speak to them?
Yes.
Who was that?
I seen Mike Miranti, and then I seen Kevin Dredding at some point.
Now, you said you went back inside to your office.
Correct.
Which is located on the first floor, correct?
Yes.
So after you go back into the office, your office, what happened next?
They were outside speaking, and then Louis Toledo came to the door with Yessenia and Kevin, knocked on the door, and I buzzed them in.
Okay. Now, you buzzed them in. Where were you sitting at the time?
My desk was set up right outside of the hallway, so to speak, where you can buzz in to open up.
Okay. And so you buzzed the defendant, Yessenia, and Kevin Dredding into the office, is that correct? How much time had passed? You saw the conversation, the intense conversation stairway in the parking lot. You go back to your desk. How much time had passed between then and the time that you hear knocking on the door and you buzz them in?
Maybe 30 minutes.
So what happened after you buzzed the defendant and Yessenia Suarez and Kevin Dredding into the office?
They came in, and the defendant had asked me where Pete Owen sat.
How did he ask you that question? What was his demeanor when he asked you that question?
Determined.
Okay. And so, and Pete Owen was your boss, is that correct?
Yes.
And did he say why he was wanting to talk to Pete Owen?
At that point, I don't think so.
Okay. Did what happened? Just walk us through after they come in and he asked, in a very determined fashion, asked you where Pete was. What happened next?
I guess Pete heard him being requested. Pete's office was behind mine. He came out and they started arguing. Yessenia then asked me to call the cops.
Not offer for the truth of the matter, Judge.
Overrule.
You can answer. Yessenia, what did Yessenia ask you to do?
She asked me to call the cops.
Did you call the cops?
I did.
Called 911?
I called the Lake Mary Sheriff's Department.
Did you speak with a dispatcher?
I did.
Now, where was everyone? You had mentioned the defendant, Yessenia Suarez, Kevin Dredding, Mike Miranti, Pete Owen, as people who were present when all of this was going on. Where were they in relation to each other when you called the police?
Mostly everybody was at my desk. I don't know where Mike Miranti, I lost sight of him at one point. but my desk is in a narrow hallway, so to speak, and they were just out in that area.
Were you able to get a dispatcher on the line?
Yes,
And did you tell her what was going on?
I did.
Were you able to actually have a conversation with the dispatcher?
Yes,
Okay. At some point, were you not able to hear and understand what the dispatcher was saying?
yes,
And why was that?
because of the yelling in the background.
Okay, so there was yelling going on in the background.
Yes.
What was the defendant doing or saying during this time that you can recollect?
He was just mentioning, wanting Pete to know what type of people were hired. And I was lost at that point because I didn't know the full story then.
Did you hear the defendant making any accusations of things that people had done?
Yes.
And what was that?
There was text messages that he found on there being a possible affair.
Okay, between Yessenia Suarez and Kevin Dredden?
Correct.
What was the defendant's demeanor during this time? You said there was a lot of yelling. Was the defendant yelling?
Yes,
Was he angry?
I would think so.
An observation.
Overrule.
You can answer.
I would think so.
Is it fair to say that you don't remember everything that was said during that period of time? Is that correct?
Correct.
Since that time, you've been made aware that the call that you made to police was actually recorded.
Yes,
Have you had a chance to listen to that phone call?
I have.
And approach the witness, Your Honor.
You may.
Showing you what's been marked for identification purposes as safety exhibit LLLLL, 5 L's. You recognize that, Hannah?
I do.
You recognize this as a recording of that phone call?
Yes,
And you had an opportunity to listen to this?
I did.
And after you did that, you initialed and dated, is that correct?
I did.
And was this recording a fair and accurate recording of the phone call you had at the late Mason Park?
Yes.
Safety exhibit 5 L's into evidence?
Okay, subject to the previous issues we discussed, the item will be admitted. Be admitted. This is number 4? 6.
Now, Ms. Vandigriff, this recording captured some of the statements made by the defendant in the background. Is that correct?
It did.
Your Honor, at this time, I request permission to publish the phone call.
You may do so. Before you do that, let me explain something to the viewers. I may have done this before, maybe not. Every item that is introduced in evidence, you'll have an opportunity to have that with you in the jury room later on, and you can listen to it. Do it at your heart's delight. So, just want to let you know that. Okay?
And also building, we have somebody in our building that will not leave and is on unemployment. And apparently he is 735 Panera Boulevard. And it is while I'm in Suite 120, and he's right down the hall. And yes, it is. I'm sorry, I can't hear you because I'm having conversation. All right, I appreciate it. I just want your job to know how you go ahead and go cut the trees and go around over. And I got the message to show you about me. I got the message to show you. I'm sorry. I'm not upset about this guy going here. I'm upset with going there.
Okay, let's bring this Charlie 22 copy tonight. Are there any weapons involved, ma'am?
No, not at all.
Okay. I hope not.
Oh, God, you're going to break me out the house.
Next slide.
We have secured doors, and it looks like he's leaving now.
Okay, which way is he leaving?
It looks like he went towards the left, but you can only turn right onto Primera. Right onto Primera, so I don't know if he's going to loop around. It looks like it's a domestic abuse.
Okay, what?
The guy is, I'm a real girl.
Okay. What's your name and phone number?
My name is Jessica Vandigriff, and that's VANDYGRIFF. And my direct line is 407-333-5457.
Okay.
And like I said, it looked like he did take off, and it looked like a silver Saturn. I don't know. His wife is here, so she could probably give you more information.
Okay, no problem.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Bye.
Now, Ms. Vandigriff, following you making the phone call, did a police officer respond to the office there?
He did.
And by the time the police arrived, the defendant had left?
Yes.
Did an officer speak to Yessenia?
Yes.
Did Yessenia stay and finish out the workday?
No.
Did you speak to her before she left? And just yes or no?
Yes.
Did she ever show up for work at American Canine after that day?
No.
How much longer after that did you work there?
About a year.
And during that year, you never saw her again?
No.
No further questions?
A cross-examination.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Judge Zambara. Good afternoon.
Hello.
You said earlier that when Lewis came in earlier in the day, he was buzzed into the building by someone named Cherie?
Cherie.
Cherie?
Yes.
Okay. And isn't it true that when you were initially asked to call for 911 or call the police, you responded by saying, for what? Is that true?
Yes.
Okay. Now, did you know Lewis prior to that day? I think you said you may have, correct?
I met him on occasions at work, but that was it.
All right. And did you also have an opportunity to meet him at a office Christmas party?
I did.
Okay. And you described at the time before the date in October, and not the Christmas party, but Lewis had come to the office to bring lunch to his wife, Yessenia. Is that correct?
Yes.
And he had the 2 children with him?
He did.
Did you see anything unusual in the interaction that day between Lewis, his wife, and the children?
Not at all.
Now, you said after he had left initially, he did come back later, correct?
Yes.
And this is when some of these other events took place that you've described, right?
Correct.
All right. But when he first left, he had just basically left in a calm demeanor earlier in the morning, correct?
Correct.
Now, you've indicated or testified that later on you hear him and Ms. Suarez speaking in Spanish, but you do not understand what they're saying because you don't speak Spanish.
Correct.
And then it was sometime after that that you saw the two of them out in the parking lot. Is that true?
Yes.
And Kevin was out there too?
Yes.
And these other gentlemen that you described?
Yes.
How well do you know Kevin Breton?
We actually work in the same department, but just as a coworker.
Any socializing with him or his family?
Not outside of work now.
And maybe a similar Christmas party or something?
Right. I talked more with Kevin because we are in the same department.
And how do you have any knowledge of Kevin and Lewis and their relationship prior to this day?
I didn't physically saw it, but I believe that they played basketball together.
Okay. Isn't it true that the company had rented out a gym for a while for employees to use and exercise?
To play ball, yes.
And Lewis would at times join in with the group?
I believe so. I never seen a game, but that's what I've heard.
And you do recall, although I guess there was we could tell there was a lot of over-talking, you do remember something about the text messages being an issue and being in question, correct?
Yes.
Now, when you did, I want to ask you a couple of questions about your observations of the afternoon discussion between Mr. Toledo and Ms. Suarez. When you saw that conversation taking place, I think you did describe it with the state as an intense conversation?
Yes.
All right, but you yourself were not concerned that Lewis was going to do anything physical at that time, correct?
No.
And when they were having the conversation that you described as intense, you did not observe Mr. Toledo flailing his arms or waving or gesturing at Ms. Suarez, correct?
No.
And the one part of the tape where we hear a question, were there any weapons, and an answer, no, that was you saying that answer, correct?
Correct.
Judge, just 1 second, please.
Yes, sir. Any redirect?
Very briefly. One question. Ms. Fanny Griff, I know that the defense asked you if you saw or didn't see any physical altercation or anything like that. You did hear on the 911 recording where the defendant is in the background and called Yessenia Suarez a whore, correctly? Correct?
Whoring around.
Whoring around. Nothing further.
Thank you. Yes.
Ma'am, isn't it true that in a prior sworn statement you've indicated that, in fact, you're not sure if that word ever was used?
I did not recall it until I reheard the tape.
Okay, well, you had heard the tape prior to that earlier sworn statement, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And isn't it true that you said at that time you were not sure if any words like that were ever spoken, right?
Correct. I wasn't listening to the background talk. I was listening to my call.
Okay, when was the last time the state played that tape for you?
This morning.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Any redirect? All right, thank you. May the witness be excused. State defense.
Yes, sir.
Okay, she's excused. I think I'm going to conclude the proceedings for today. Yes, sir. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go ahead and conclude the proceedings for the day. Come back tomorrow. Be here around 8:45 in that jury room over there. Leave your notes face down in your chairs before you leave. Always going to remind you, you've only heard part of the case. Don't get involved in any sort of research about the case. Hear me repeat that over and over and over until you get sick and tired of it, okay? So we'll see you tomorrow at 9 in the courtroom, but 8:45 in that jury room, okay? All right, the jury has been excused. We will be in recess until tomorrow. Be here at 8:30.
Judge.